You know, when I was very young, I got involved in politics. So I started helping on campaigns. I love barbecue, red, white, and blue, the hot dogs, and I like people. And so I would work on a lot of campaigns. And one day, the mayor of my town was running for Congress, and we got a phone call late one Sunday night, very cold outside. And the lady said, "Mr. Mayor, I don't have any heat, and I was wondering if you could help me, and I don't live in your district." And as a young person, I'm like, "Lady, you don't live in the district, come on, call somebody else." And he was able to pick up the phone and make a call, and they got a Share the Warmth truck to her home, and they put oil into the tank. Now that night, somebody died from being out in the cold. And I remember thinking, I'm on the wrong side of the table. I don't want to just be the campaign worker. I want to be the person who can make things happen with a phone call. And the only way to do that is to be elected. So a few years later, my mayor called and said, "I believe we have a seat for you." Now I'm from the South, and so sometimes you need what I call a gatekeeper. You need somebody who is able to say to everyone else, "This is the right one, terrific young person, has been in politics for years." And when I ran for office, I won every box. I have the highest vote margin of anybody in a city election. And so that started my run. Now, I had run before and lost. So I pretty much knew that losing's no fun. So the next opportunity that came, I was able to win my seat. And I was elected twice to city council, and now I'm a water commissioner. I'm the first woman and only woman in 120 years to sit on this board. And then I became the chairman, and now I've taken myself off as chairman because I travel so much. But I love the opportunity because water is becoming the new oil. And so I've learned a lot, and I really enjoy that opportunity. So yes, I've been in politics, and I help other people find their place and space so they can win a seat. I came to the Women's Campaign School as a student, and they had a public speaking teacher who was awful. And I wrote to school and I said, "This guy's terrible, you should hire me." And they were like, "Who are you?" And I said, "Remember I was in school?" And they were like, "Yes, you were the chatterbox." I said, "But you don't have a business doing this." So they had me come once. Students really enjoyed me. I ended up being on the board. A few years later, I'm the vice president, then I'm the president of the board. And so I've been teaching at the campaign school for probably 10, 15 years. And I teach the public speaking and then forums, debates, and interviews because the world hears women candidates different. And because of that, we need to teach what it is that people need to hear from you so your message is not just talking, but people listening and taking action. So many women don't feel like they can use their voice. So I'm a pretty good, strong woman. I use my outside voice inside. I am always heard. And women were taught to be soft, skinny, sweeter, not speak loud. And then what happens, your voice is drowned out. Now, you don't have to be harsh, but you need to be just different enough where people go, "Wow, she's really good." So I never let my candidates start with, "Good afternoon, thank you for having me." We start with a startling fact or figure. "Did you know in South Carolina today?" No, nobody knew. So if I can help women learn to craft a message in such a way that what happens is people stop and listen. And because they stop and listen, it gives ladies an opportunity to be heard. And then once you're heard, doors open. A lot of times women let their voices rise at the end of a sentence, which makes it sound like you're always asking a question. Guys tend to drop off. So my job is to make sure you are strong from beginning to end and that you have a solid message that changes lives. Because we all believe lower taxes, clean air, clean water, but what are you going to do about it? So I help women many times really narrow down. Guys come to me and they say, "I'm going to run for office." I said, "What are your issues?" "Crime, education, and taxes." "Really? That's pretty wide." And I say to women, they say, "I want to run." "Well, what's your issue?" "Well, I was at the department of so-and-so and it took them too long in line." "That's your issue?" "That's not an issue." So I help them grow their issues, and with the guys I bring it in. So the reality is the public hears women differently, so I need to help women kind of up their game so they're seen and heard in the best possible light. I've been a Republican pretty much all my life because of the values I believe the party holds. So in today's world, a lot of this younger generation, they want to be independent. They like certain things about Republicans and certain things about Democrats. But once you're elected, you represent everybody. even the people who didn't vote for you, which is hard to do. So I have to spend a lot of time as an elected official making sure that my job is to treat everybody fairly, but also to get the issue done. And that's why I choose the party that I choose. Did my party help me? Sometimes, but usually it's friends helping friends. And in my case, I had some good elected friends who kind of settled the groundwork to say, you don't need to be afraid of Deb. Deb is very powerful. Deb comes from a good family. She's well educated. But most importantly, Deb is strong in messaging and she gets things done. And at the end of the day, people don't care about your party. They want the water clean, they want air clean, they want potholes fixed. And honestly, stormwater doesn't know if it's Republican or Democrat. It just runs down the street. So you've got to do your job. And I found as an elected official, people just begin to trust you. And I'll tell you quickly, as a female elected, you end up being everybody's granddaughter. Because most people, their kids live somewhere else. So if you're elected, they're like, hey, I elected you. You need to come help me. And then that really builds trust in your community. I'm sure guys do it too, but it tends to be a bigger issue where people are like, Deb's my representative. Or they'll call City Hall and go, well, I'm going to call Deb Sofield. And City Hall's like, no, don't do that. They don't want me coming down on them. But, so I think reputation and being truthful, true to your word, and then caring for those who nobody will look out for. I will tell you that I, as a young person, believe it or not, looked to Margaret Thatcher. I know that's like out of my country, somebody nobody really knew. I mean, you know her on a national scale, but I didn't know her personally. But what I liked is that she was a hammer. And I appreciated a woman who still looked like a woman, acted like a woman, but carried a pretty big hammer. So our joke is, you know, walk tall and carry a lipstick. Well, in this case, she got things done. And I've got friends in Europe who are like, oh, they don't, you know, they either like her or they don't like her. But my position for her was she was ladylike, she was regal, she carried herself well, and she had a sharp wit. Her tongue could slice you if you weren't careful. And I remember watching her as a young person thinking, yeah, that's it. Carry yourself with pride, but be smart enough that they can't ignore you. And that's my work with women in politics. Be so good they can't ignore you. And I believe that's what makes my candidates win. So if you look backwards, I think there was a more opportunity for women. The game has changed financially. And so a lot of women come to me and say, I want to run. And I say, go get a job. Make some money, because it's very expensive. And if there's one concern a lot of us have in politics, if you don't have the money, you're not going to be a player. And so if you can't afford to come to a campaign school and you're not smart enough to raise your funds, you're going to have a hard time running for city council, county council, state house. It is unfortunate that politics is so much more about money than it ever used to be, but it is. So let's just acknowledge it, and then let's go figure out how to raise our funds. So going forward, you need to have money, and you need a network. And you need a network that works, not just people's names, but people you can call and get things done. And that's what we teach at the Women's Campaign School. We're building a network of 80 friends, both sides of the aisle. Because in real life, you gotta work across the aisle or nothing gets done. Yes, you can be true to your party, but in a bigger sense, you gotta have a bigger idea. Because you're not gonna change your city, your state, and your nation with your small idea. So, backwards, I think it was a little easier. I don't think money played such a part. Going forward, you're gonna need to raise a boatload of cash.